Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today I've got Hannah from Bowla, so welcome.
Hello, hi.
So just tell us a little bit about Bowla, because is it Bowla or Bowla?
It's Bowla. Like bowl, no, like Bowla.
Bowla. Yeah.
I've never been asked that before, so
Oh,
that was hard.
Yeah,
Bowla.
yeah.
I say Bowla, I think it just depends on accents.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bowla is a bowler hat shaped loaf of bread. I completely forgot one. I normally bring one, but I've forgotten it. So just imagine a bowler hat. I know, I got some in my freezer. I normally take, bowler hat shaped loaf of bread. And then you take the top from the bottom, you have a bread bowl with a bread roll, and then you put any fillings, toppings, butter, and then you dunk it in. So that's what it is.
Wow.
So bowler hat shaped loaf of bread. So we're not the world's first bread bowl, but we are the world's first bowler hat shaped loaf of bread, and that's our USP.
Yeah.
So it's my dad's idea. So he came up with it coming up 18 years ago, probably 19 now,
Wow.
a long time ago. So I was a child when all this was happening. So basically, my dad's a contractor engineer. He works in all the nuclear power stations across the country. So he works away a lot. And he was staying in a caravan about 18 years ago now, and he fancied making some bread, as you do when you're working away. So he went to a charity shop and he got a secondhand bread maker, which didn't have any instructions with it. And he just basically bought bread mix, chucked it in, put it on, whatever, and he just saw that it was rising and rising and rising. He'd put way too much in, and it was rising, and he took it out and he flipped it over, and it looked like a top hat. It literally looked like a hat bread, big top hat bread. He didn't think anything of it, whatever. He just took it into work and then was just sharing it out with his friends, whatever, his colleagues, whatever. And his manager came in and was like, "Oh, what's that, Cre8ion?" to my dad, and he's very quick-witted, he's very funny, and he's just like, "Oh, that's the Welsh top hat loaf." He was up in Scotland, I think, at the time. And then all the Welsh colleagues, friends that he was with were sort of egging him on, kind of like adding to the story kind of thing. And then he kind of came up with this story just off the top of his head about how it's the Welsh top hat loaf, and then in the Welsh mining communities, the mother would bake the bread, pull the middle out, fill it with Welsh lamb cawl, which is the traditional stew, and then all the children would share it.
Wow.
Share the bread and dip it in, which is such a believable story.
Yeah.
So that's that. So then a year later, then he was on the same rotation up in the same power station, and his manager pulled him aside and was like, "Oh, Cre8ion, my parents drove around the coastline of Wales looking for the top hat loaf, and they couldn't find it."
What?
Which is crazy. So he and his friend then were like, "Okay, maybe there's a market for this, maybe." So then my dad took it forward himself and on his own, pretty much. He was working on the site, but he wanted to create a smaller single serving, instead of a top hat loaf, a bowler hat shaped loaf of bread, because then it's bowler roll, bowler hat shaped loaf of bread.
Yeah.
There's the play on words. So yeah, that was his kind of midlife crisis kind of passion project on the side that he was working on, obviously alongside working full time, but obviously sporadically, because he contracts in quite a abnormal fashion. He doesn't work a 9 to 5. He works he'll work 8 weeks on, 4 weeks off, but he'll work 10, 12-hour days,
right,
for 7 days a week, and then have a day off in between, so it's kind of, and then he'll be off for a few months. He'd come home and he'd just be baking bread constantly and welding bits of metal together, trying to so it kind of, so he's an engineer, so he basically started trying to weld things together and stick things together to try and create a shape for a mould to put in the oven. And he took, I think, one of his first prototypes he took to a bakery, and they were like, "We're not putting that in our oven," because it was literally just an amalgamation of metal and bits and bobs that he'd put together. They were like, "We're not putting that in our oven." So then he went to an engineering company and got drawings made of what he was trying to explain, but he wouldn't tell anyone what it was, so it made it so much harder because he was too scared to tell anyone what it was. He made people sign non-disclosure
NDAs,
forms as well. And that was only after someone he knew said to do that and printed one off from wherever they worked, whatever. It was very, he had no idea what he was doing. And then, so they had drawings made. This all happened over sort of 10 years. And then once he had the drawings made, he had a mould made. He filed for a patent. Again, someone in the pub was like, "Oh, you can get a patent on that maybe." So he filed for a patent.
Wow, look at that. It's
yeah,
amazing,
I know.
isn't it?
It's crazy. It's all alongside, I was a teen, literally, I was 7 when he had the idea, 8 when his manager said whatever to him, and then by the time I was 15, 16, he'd filed for a patent. I remember watching him go through that, and also we had loads of bowler hat shaped loaves of bread in the freezer all the time, so I just thought they were a standard household item, which they aren't yet. So
Not
yeah,
yet.
not
Well, a
yet.
little bit, yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of his story with that. So he filed for a patent and he shelved it. So he just filed for it because obviously that took 4 years to come through, and then that comes into like where I come into it kind of thing. So yeah, that was that. It was shelved then in 2016. He also opened a limited company and just had a dormant limited company because he was never going to start a business. Like he was never going to launch a business himself, but he kind of wanted someone to buy the idea off him. Like that was his like kind of thing. Like he never wanted to do it himself. So yeah, like fast forward then to 2020 then when COVID happened, I was studying my degree. I came home from
What's the
Bristol.
degree in?
My degree was in physics.
Okay.
So nothing to do with
Nothing
baking.
to do with it.
No. Yeah, so I was doing my degree in physics. I didn't love the course, but I absolutely loved living in Bristol. I loved my friends. I had such a good time at uni. COVID happened in my second year. So March of my second year, I moved home. Well, I came home for what was meant to be 2 weeks and it ended up being 6 months. And my dad came home as well and he just kind of took time off because he's a bit older. So he wanted to shield. But we were going on walks every day, hour-long walks, and he would tell me about his idea and tell me about like some of the like anecdotes that he went through to like get it to where it is. And I was quite inspired by it. I was just genuinely like, oh my God, this man has worked so hard on this thing. And then he was kind of like, well, he was 60 at the time, I was 20. And he was like, I'd love someone 20 years younger who has experience in the food and drink industry to take this forward and like pursue it into a business and whatever. Like he'd happily sell the idea, but retain the patent, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm 20, I have no experience, I have no idea what I want to do. I was already selling clothes online as well. So like from 16, I was selling clothes online on Depop, Vinted, eBay.
Okay.
So I was already kind of like in
Been
that.
through that journey,
like, yeah, which I didn't appreciate at that point. But looking back, I was like, not every 16-year-old was doing that. Like I had quite a lot of like drive that a lot of people didn't have. So then I said, well, I'm going to do it. So then I, after my degree, finished my degree, moved home, enrolled, and I did a master's in Swansea Uni, which is like half an hour drive from us. And I did something sort of entrepreneurial, but like, so the course was engineering, leadership and management. So it was leadership and management for the engineering sector, but obviously it's very transferable, as you'd know. And yeah, and then I worked with the enterprise team, Business Wales, Big Ideas Wales, like get a business plan and stuff. And then we realized that, so we needed to make sales. That was the objective. So we had the concept, we had the mold. We just needed to prove the concept. That was the whole point. We were advised to find somewhere to bake, either bake at home, which wasn't, we couldn't do that at home because there was 4 of us living in the house and it would just been a nightmare. Find somewhere cheap to bake and then do pop-ups. That was what the advice we were given, to get the name out there as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it was me and my dad. I was 21, 22. He was 61, 62. He was like sort of the end of his career. I was at the beginning. I would have happily done the pop-ups, but equally I had no experience. But my dad was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want somewhere to bake the bread and sell them. Like that is like a requirement. He'd been saving for years for this as well. He'd been saving up like on the side. So he had like a lump to put towards it.
Yeah.
So then we decided to launch in Swansea market. So that was going to be our point of sale and our bakery base. And then if we wanted to do pop-ups, we could do it from there, which is what ended up happening. So yeah, so we had a stall, our first stall in Swansea market. It was very functional. It was in the corner. There were no seats. It was takeaway only. Everything, like looking back, like it was not optimal. Like the operations were not optimal at all. I had no idea what I was doing. He had no idea what he was doing, but we just did it. And then he decided to go back to work, and my uncle was baking the bread. Who just recently retired and moved to Porthcawl from Cardiff, so it was perfect. So he came in with me every day. So my uncle just like gave up his time to like bake bread for us, which was really nice. Kind of kept him busy because he just retired and he felt a bit lost, like between working full time and like, yeah, so he was doing 3 days a week with us, which was nice, which was good. And then, yes, we were there for 14 months in that first stall. In that time, I launched on all the delivery apps. I did markets, outdoor markets, corporate functions. That was a huge thing that just came to me. So my partner's mum had an accounting firm, and she basically a month in went, right, can you cater this event for 50 people? So I rocked up on my own and catered an event for 50 people with no experience you know, which is so funny. Like, and I just like, yeah, it was a nightmare. So after that, I always brought someone with me because carrying all the equipment in and stuff was a nightmare. so I did that, and then I put on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden I had Citizens Advice in Barry be like, can you equate to this? And then I had like a few others. So then I had like a consistent like revenue, and I was like taking, well, at the beginning I was massively undercharging because I didn't realize, but obviously now like and then I just kind of adapted my pricing and stuff. So yeah, that was like that. And then I realized, so me and my family kind of sat down about a year after, and we were like, also what happened is that I had no idea I didn't know what marketing was. If you asked me what's marketing when I was 22, I wouldn't have been able to tell you.
Yeah.
But I was like, how do people know about businesses? Like, how do people know about new fun food things? So I grew up on social media. So social media was a huge factor. I also started harassing the like local press, like Wales Online and Swansea Bay News. And then I had like PR things from like 0 to 5 when we work with them, and Swansea Uni alumni and things like that. So I was like, that's how people are learning. So social media and like, and so by the first year I'd had multiple articles in Wales Online. The British Baker had done 3 articles on us, Swansea Bay Business News, and it does do something. It helps something, but it also adds credibility. So like we would put it on social media and make us look like, like we were doing well, if that makes sense, because that's half of it. I feel like sometimes.
Well, it's telling us, it's telling the story that you're on a journey and you're making progress. And I think
exactly.
People perceive progress as once you're on like the newspapers and things like that, people go, oh, okay. They're making noise, not knowing exactly. that there's a science to it as well. Exactly.
I was like obsessed with like making as much noise as possible in that first year. And what ended up happening was, so I applied for the Great British Entrepreneur Awards. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
So that's why. So we hadn't even. I think it was we'd been trading for a week. I applied for that. I got shortlisted, which I thought was a scam. So I didn't buy a ticket because I was like, why do they want 300 quid off me? Whatever. And then about a week later, I had an email from one of the producers from Aldi's Next Big Thing on Channel 4 saying, "Hi, I've come across your business. I'm wondering whether you'd want a phone call and talk about maybe like having a space on Aldi's Next Big Thing." So then we'd been trading 4 weeks, by the way, at this point. So I called them back the next day, and then they put me through the motions. And within 12 weeks of trading, we were pitching to the buyer of Aldi for Aldi's Next Big Thing. I don't know if you know about the show, if you heard of that show. It's like kind of, so yeah, it's a Channel 4 show. Aldi's Next Big Thing is kind of like if Dragon's Den and British Bake Off had a baby. So there's like basically food businesses. It's like kind of Aldi's initiative to help small businesses.
How did that go?
It went well. We didn't win. We lost. But it was like within 12 weeks we were like, had Channel 4 cameras and it was great. And I asked the producer how she found us, and she said because she was going through the Great British Entrepreneur Award finalists, and she liked the logo, and then she clicked on the website and read the story, and that's how she found us. So then I ended up buying a ticket for the Great British Entrepreneur Awards, and I've been like quite active in that community because I was like that was a huge opportunity. So that aired. We launched April 2023, and then April 2024 that aired, and that was 7 million viewers nationwide. Suddenly learning about Bowla, so I launched an online shop just before that to try and get some sales. Just after Aldi's Next Big Thing, after that happened, because we thought that was going to be the thing that was going to like blow us up completely. It didn't. We were on there for about 5 minutes. Like we did like 7 hours of filming, and they put us on for like 5 minutes, or less than that, like 2 minutes. But it was like we were like, yeah, there's a huge opportunity that we've got, and then. It didn't end up being the huge opportunity, but it did add weight to our name, if that makes sense. We've been on TV, like we've
brand exposure.
Yes, exactly. After that, then my family and I sat down, and my sister spent a couple of weeks looking at the accounts and looking at the books for me, because I was spread quite thin. I was doing everything myself, every single thing myself, serving all the customers, doing the QuickBooks, doing the marketing, doing everything. And the accounts were in a bit of a mess. So my sister looked at it, and she's very good with like data and stuff. So she was like, right, you're making a lot of money everywhere except the stall. Like this is a problem. Like you're working like 4 times as hard trying to make money to pay the rent and pay everything else when the stall isn't making money at all. Like that's like the so she was like very straight with me. And then my sister's girlfriend, then fiance now, was like, I'm going to be honest, like the stall's ugly. Like it's not attracting people in. Like that's what's happening. So it was like, and that hurt so much to hear that. But I was like, right, okay. So then we all sat down, family meeting, and we decided that we were going to move and like we were going to change the store itself, but I decided that we needed seats, like from various different research things that I'd done. I put out feedback forms, I did like loads of different things, spoke to customers, and yeah, it was decided that we needed to be somewhere a bit bigger, brighter. We needed seats. The equipment could have been literally taken up half the space. We could have like made it so much more like operationally efficient. So we did that. So that was like a little family project. So me, my sister's girlfriend, and my partner also like chipped in with that as well. And then we moved 2 doors down in the market into a bigger stall that someone had just vacated from. And we spent 3 months building, and then we relaunched in September 2024, and sales doubled straight away.
Wow.
Immediately from day one. Like as soon as we opened the doors, people who'd never heard of Bowla before were coming in and sitting down and looking at the menu, being like, what's this? And then obviously, because they hadn't seen on social media, that was a huge part of how I was explaining what it was.
Yeah.
So like I ended up having to explain maybe 20, 30 times that whole pitch, like that whole little thing.
Yeah, it's a funny one because I think it was when I went to San Francisco, they did the clam chowder. And so that was the first time I ever experienced that journey.
Yeah.
You know, they served it in there and then you put the lid on it and whatever. And I hadn't seen anything like that in the UK.
Yeah.
So where is that come from? Is that a US thing? Is it a British thing?
There's bread bowls everywhere. There's the clam chowder in the US. There's the South African bunny chow, which is like curry in a bread bowl. There's Iceland. They've all different names. Obviously, it's a huge like European thing. I think bread bowls have been done in the UK before, but they haven't taken off very well, which is fair enough. But I think like from what I can see, from what traction we've had, there's a lot of people buying the breads. Obviously, it worked as a street food outlet. They were flaws to our operations, hence why I closed it down, because I think they were things that I could improve on again. Mm-hmm. And again, I had to make that decision, like we talked about earlier. Like I felt stuck for so long. I was like, I'm stuck, and I was like, I've made this decision. I've moved. I spent all this money, and now I don't know what to do. We also got loads of grants. Wait, what was the question? That wasn't what you asked me. Oh, where did it come from?
Yeah, where did it come from?
Yes. So I think, so for us, like we're targeting events and stadiums. So
the rugby.
Yeah, that kind of thing, like the sporting events type thing. So obviously bread bowls are traditionally a restaurant thing where you sit down with a huge bread bowl, you never finish the bread. The bread comes out, you throw the bread away. At least with this, like you don't throw any bread away. You literally rip it and open it and you eat everything, like nothing's wasted.
Yeah.
So obviously, we need a bigger one. So the one we've got now is big enough for most, but it's not big enough for all. Right. So I want a bigger one as well to have that optionality. Where it came from, I guess just the excitement that my dad faced when he told that story is where it came from. I think like the fact that someone got excited and then since then people are still excited by it, even though it was a bread bowl. Like people have eaten bread bowls before or not. I actually hadn't before, but
no.
Well, I had in my house because I was fed them all the time. But outside of the house, I hadn't had them. But yeah.
So the bread itself then, is it so where's it baked and made? Is it it's not at home obviously?
No, so it was in the stall. It was always in the stall. So in the first one it was there, and the second one it was we still baked in the stall. And then the fill-ins we outsourced. So the fill-ins were chef made Welsh as much as possible, everything as Welsh as possible. Mm-hmm. We realised in the first stall that was important to the customers. Like, oh, where's your butter from? Where's your cheese from? Where are your ingredients from? And that was the thing. But yeah, we baked them all from scratch by hand fresh in the stall. My uncle did most of them, and then when I took on staff,
it's a real family business, eh? It's like everyone's involved.
Yes, everyone's mucked in a bit. It definitely, because 100%. It's made us a lot closer. Because like my family, like all families have like problems, but like this has been like the one thing that's kind of like
do you think that's brought your family closer together then as a business? 100%.
I think there's been times where it's like added strain. So towards the end, I would say it probably put a little bit more strain than, but equally like
do you like at 5 o'clock we don't talk about business, or is it just always turn up?
So when I was living at home, so I moved home after my degree and I lived at home for 4 years. My dad was working away, thankfully, because whenever he came back, it was constant. It was like I'd come home from the shop or he'd come with me, and then we might go and sit in the pub just to get out of the house or go to a coffee shop, and it's all we talk about is like the future and like things that are happening and stuff. But now that I've moved out, there's that separation. So it's not constant anymore, which has been really nice because it's an illness. My dad calls it. It's an illness. Bowla's an illness. because you get obsessed with it. Like you get obsessed with like the next thing and whatever.
So at the moment then, like, talking about presently, so at the moment you're going to a lot of sports venues and stuff like that?
Yeah.
With a stand, is it?
I'm not at the moment. We had the stall. It's funny because like our goal and what we were doing are so different. And I think that's what has come out of this.
Yeah.
So we had the stall and we were making sales, and our customers, they were students, office workers, and the general public. Whoever's in the general public in Swansea. I don't know if you've been to Swansea, but it's like, I don't want to, but it's not Cardiff. It's much smaller and much quieter, and much less diverse, I'm going to say. We were trying to get into stadiums. So from December last year, I started banging on the doors of all the big stadiums because we wanted to go into large scale events catering. That was like the goal. But now I'm reevaluating that goal because I spent 6 months working towards that goal. And then I was like, wait, actually we're quite a way off that. We're quite a way off being able to actually get in there anyway. Maybe it's a case of now doing a bit more test trading in that setting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because I think he was a COO for Brighton. And so basically when he first came in, Brighton was a really unfashionable, almost got relegated football team. Now they're a Premier League side. But when they were selling food, they were trying to make the transition from, just cheap food and whatever to almost educating. So like they started serving fish and chips up on plates, and people were like, oh, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And so there was this whole education stuff, and they realised that there were different tiers and there were different people.
Yeah.
And so you can have fish and chips on the plate, but then go and buy it from over here and go and sit down.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm stood up and I just want to walk around the stadium, then I can buy something else that I can put in a bit of paper, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Don't give me a plate; it's really awkward.
Yeah.
He said we spent a lot of time beginning to segment the audience that we were serving and realized that it's not one size fits all, but you have to cater to each other's needs, because obviously you've got the general fan that turns up, they watch and they're there for the football and that's it. But then you've got those that want to go for the experience, to sit in the box, probably watch one Premier League game a year and watch the rest on TV, for example. So it's a very different audience. One's a corporate, has its own expectations, whereas the other one's like, well, this is my life, and if we lose, I'm depressed. Whereas people in the box, it's like, well, that was nice. And they don't follow the results. So that's that. So from your point of testing and audience, have you got a product that works with the actual, if you like, the fans, and then you're looking to get the product in the corporate environment?
That's what I hit. That's the wall I kind of hit, because I went into stadiums. I had a meeting with the managing director of the food in Swansea.com Stadium, and also Cardiff Principality Stadium, through a network in the NatWest Accelerator program. They were friends. Oh, okay. So I went on LinkedIn and saw that someone from the NatWest Accelerator program was getting a mutual connection. So I just messaged her saying, "Hiya, do you know this person?" And she went, yeah, she's my neighbour. I went, brilliant. Could you ask her whether we could meet? So we did, and we sat down, and she kindly gave me like half an hour of her time. She spoke me through all of that, because I was saying, I'm still saying it now, I'm saying events catering, but that is so broad. Like I have to look at what that means, because in the stall it was a lot of like, I guess we were small business, we were fresh baked bread, and we were like Welsh fillings, premium chef made fillings. So it was a lot of like hipster type people coming in, like students and stuff, and office workers. Whereas like I will have to change it slightly for that, like a different crowd, like different crowds of people. So to be determined, basically, because we have flavored breads as well. Like we have the garlic and rosemary, and I even want to crack black pepper, and we had the protein one, which was like wholemeal 50-50 with seeds, which had like 12 grams of protein in, and the white one. So like most like older-ish sort of men would just get white please. Whereas like the really hipster whatever would get garlic and rosemary with vegan tikka masala or whatever. Like, so yeah. There's there's a little bit more of there's a little bit more customer research, so to speak. Definitely in the setting we're trying to get into. That's
so when you say sports, then you've got rugby teams, soccer teams. Have you thought about golf?
No.
You see,
I spoke to someone who runs a golf thing in Porthcawl, and he was saying it might be good there. And I'm not a sports person, or I'm not anyone who's into sports, so like that is like realistically half the reason I've closed down is so I can focus on.
Yeah, because one of the reasons I bring up golf is that you've got a lot of people stood around for a long period of time watching. They can walk, they can talk, and also like in Wales, you obviously got Celtic Manor. Mm-hmm. You got their huge golf course there that was used for the Ryder Cup, and then there's a massive golf community within Wales that So for me, golf might be a good vertical to have a look at. But, certainly from a competitive perspective, because Celtic Manor, for example. I don't know if you've been to the Celtic Manor. Have you driven Manor?
I've driven past it, and I think I've seen a few TikToks of people going, "This is the Celtic Manor," but I've not been.
So it's worth driving up there and then driving around it. So basically, they got like a network of roads, and they've got like chalets now that people stay, a bit like centre parks, overlooking the golf course and stuff. And as you go around the back, they've got a huge golf pavilion there, which is where all the golfers go. Rather than to the hotel, they go to the pavilion. And then in between that, they had what we used to call the milk race. So the cycling Britain, Tour de Britain, I think it is. And that was there at the weekend. So we went up to charge our car actually up there. And it was just full of like cyclists, all their cars, all the bikes on the roof and that sort of stuff. So Celtic obviously attracts a whole load of people on a regular basis, and they got various different restaurants within the setting. It's huge. I don't know if you see, when you see it, it's massive.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look.
But it also goes down as well. So underneath, there's a load of events and functions and stuff like that.
That's cool.
That might be worth having a look. And then obviously you got the conference centre as well. So golf might be I hadn't thought about golf. Yeah, I'll have to have a look. Because particularly because you've got different breads. That's quite interesting.
Exactly.
Do you do sourdough or anything like that?
We've explored sourdough. I had Cardiff Met make some sourdough for us. We couldn't do sourdough in the stall. Another reason to compound against the stall. But it was. Yeah, sourdough is a huge trend, and it's obviously healthy and all this stuff. And I eat a lot of sourdough, so yeah, that was like important. And also even exploring like ancient grains, because another subsegment of the customers were people who were buying the breads and filling them at home themselves. Yeah. So they want like choice in the bread, and then like obviously when I had the online shop, that was just UK wide bread postals, so people all over the UK were buying boxes of bread to fill themselves. Yeah. Which may mean that they'd fit somewhere on the supermarket shelves, like that might suggest that. So yeah, like we could talk for hours and hours and hours about all the different like subsections of people, because I'm interested in like ancient grains and higher fiber, high protein, things like that, whereas some people aren't bothered by it. No,
because I mean one of the things that we touched on it pre-filming was Clarkson's farm and the farming world and the farming market, because ultimately the end product is bread, but there's all this journey that comes before. And for me, it's been a real education, because you just don't pay attention to just how much work it is to get the flour, to get the everything that you need to be able to make bread in itself, and the journey that you've been on. So what are your plans future-wise now? Because obviously you've done the whole, you're testing the market, whatever. But how do you see it? Do you see it as every house will have a bowl of bread?
I think I want Bowla to be a household name. I want everyone in the UK at least the UK, to know what the Bowla hat-shaped loaf of bread is. Because I think like with the stall, what I was doing was trying to compete with Greggs, Subway, other food outlets in the market, in Swansea market. Yeah. Whereas I want the Bowla hat-shaped loaf of bread to more compete with like the bagel, the baguette. Like I want it to be a loaf of bread, like a type of loaf of bread, where you can have endless flavor opportunities, endless combination opportunities. You can have a sourdough bowler, you can have the rye bowler, the white bowler, the garlic and rosemary, the wholemeal, whatever, like all the different types of bread. And then it fits into different settings. I want a bigger one for restaurant purposes. Like I've had a few restaurants, because we had bowlers in the Royal Welsh, Cre8ion, the food and drink support for Wales, put bowlers on display for free in the Royal Welsh, which is like a really big trade show in Wales, the biggest in Wales. Yeah. And I had a list then of like restaurants that were interested. So like I've got, like it's all these different like things. So I think I need to really sit down and map out properly what I actually want, because that I've not had the capacity because I took on staff. Like I was managing a food outlet, whereas I've been trying to market a bowler hat shaped loaf of bread. That's the aim. That's what I'm trying to do.
Back to the business model canvas then, really.
Yes, exactly. That's the next thing. And I've just, so we closed it down less than a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And I've just had a lovely couple of weeks just resting.
Yeah, but the thing is you're progressing. If you look where it was to where you're now, you've made a journey.
Yeah.
And I think, there's no such thing as an overnight success. We know people, me and Ollie, that, were selling coffee and now they're a household name now, but it's taken them years to get there.
Yes.
And I think, there's no such thing as a loss, it's a learn. And for me, it's there are so many, as you said, we could discuss for hours, which way can we help you with and on that journey. But I think the key thing is there's a business to business journey and there's a business to consumer journey. And I think it's working what those two things are actually like. And then saying, right, how do we facilitate that? Do they come and pick it up? Do we post it if it's business to consumer? Or is it we're now trying to get into the shops, or is it relationships with farm shops? Is it, what does that look like? And I think, you do need to take that time to get the headspace to do it. Obviously speak to the founder, because where did he think to take it? Because he's obviously had a plan and had an idea.
Yeah, he's still obviously heavily involved. So it's like mine and his business, but I do everything and he's just kind of there. But I think like my dad hasn't been there for every single thing that I've seen. So like I have to inform him. Every time I learn something, I inform him, which is kind of like that. But yeah, he's very like football stadiums. Like he has this envisionment. He's always had this envisionment of football stadium. You've got France versus Scotland or whatever. I don't know football. I hope they're teams. Yeah, they would be. And then like you've got bowlers in the food bit. And you've got like a French national dish and a Scottish national dish with little flags like on the top of them, so that people, like if the French want to try the Scottish or the Scottish want to try the French, or they want to have their own, like there's like that kind of novel and like sentimental factor as well. Like that's his like kind of big envisionment. Yeah. But he also sees them in supermarkets and like farm. Like I don't think he'd even heard of a farm shop before I told him what a farm shop was, and before he watched for Clarkson's Farm, because he's probably watched that as well. But yeah, it's. He just wants it out there, He just wants it out there.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows.
No. But the thing is it's taking an idea and beginning to get that idea to become part of a lifestyle. And I think that's a hard journey to go on, and it will take time.
Yeah.
But I would argue, was it paninis? No one knew what a panini was 25 years ago. Do you know what I mean? And it's these trends come in. Yeah. Like Subway and their foot long.
Yeah, of course,
So these trends come in, and then we adopt them, and then they become an option. And I think for me, it's like sourdough. So we've got, if I drive from here, probably 20 minutes north, we come across the Gloucester services.
Lovely, yeah.
So if you get hit there at a certain time, they reduce all their sourdough as well.
Right.
But there's so many different sourdoughs. There's the charcoal one that's just jet black.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a jet black bread roll. And then you have like the spelt, the seeded loaves, ancient grains. So they do diversify, but the point is everyone goes there. They rarely leave without a sourdough piece of bread underneath their arm. So it's quite cool. So when you were at school, then what did you actually want to be, and how do you feel now in your life's journey? Do you feel by comparison, are you happy that you're an entrepreneur?
I definitely am happy that I'm an entrepreneur. And so I when I grew up, I was very I have ADHD. I didn't know it then. I know it now. Yeah. It wasn't a thing necessarily growing up, but I was very, very good at school. Very, very. I got good grades just naturally, just very easy. I didn't really do much work in school. As a child, I was very, very bubbly, very social. Like just loved life. Like so happy, so outgoing. Like just loved it. Good at school as well. And then I went to high school, and I realised that I couldn't be as outgoing as I was in primary school. I guess A, because it's a massive school, and B, because like I know all the social pressures and stuff. So I kind of regressed into myself, and I got really, really bad. By age 12, I think I had really, really, really bad social anxiety, like awful. I could barely make eye contact with people. Wow. I had like 2 or 3 friends. I went from being friends with 30 people in primary school to like literally having like only a few friends, and I moved around friendship groups a lot as well. I couldn't seem to find my people in high school at all. But I was very good at school, like naturally, just very good. But like, yeah, so I was always told I was good at maths. You're good at maths, you're good at maths, you're not good at English. You know, you're good at maths. You know, I was all right at everything, but you're good at maths, you're good at, that's that. So that was kind of like ingrained into me from a young age. So I was like, right, I'll be an accountant then, cool. Or I'll like, you know, go into maths. Like I was like, I'll do a maths degree. That's what I'll do. So when I got to sixth form, I was like, right, I have no idea what I want to do. I'd been selling clothes. I had part-time jobs as well. Like I worked in a fish and chip shop. I was selling clothes. Like I was working in an ice cream shop as well. Like I was doing a lot of different things. And then sixth form came and I was like, I did maths, physics for my A levels. And I was like, right, I just want to do a degree that's like employable. That's all. Just a degree that's employable. And that's varied. So I looked at maths, physics and engineering. And what I deduced was that engineering, if you go into engineering, you're kind of like, you got to do an engineering job. Yeah. If you do maths or physics, you can do anything afterwards. So like when I looked at like the statistics of what people do afterwards, some percentage of people were going into law, some were going into engineering, some were going into like other things like medical physics or whatever. Like there's lots of different things. Some people continued on, did PhDs, and then others did like other whatever. So I just was like, right, that one's way more employable than, not way more employable, but engineering was more niche, whereas physics was like more broad. Maths I didn't want to do because it just bored me to death when I went to any open day. But physics was, the people were interesting as well. Like the lecturers were all a bit quirkier. Like the people there were a bit like more like, why are things like, it was more like philosophical. So it was like really interesting.
More experimental.
And more experimental, definitely. Like the people were just like, challenge everything that you know, think so. So yeah, and then I went to an open day in Bristol. I wanted to go further. I wanted to move as far away from home as possible. I wanted to go somewhere completely new. And I went to a Bristol open day and fell in love with it. And I was like, I'm going to Bristol, even though that's like an hour and 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, I did physics in Bristol. The course wasn't right for me, particularly where I am now. Like it was all technical. It was all hard skills. Like it was all very, very technical coding, maths, stuff. There was no, like obviously you wrote lab reports, but again, like the grammar wasn't your grammar wasn't like the most important thing there. Like it was like what you'd written. Obviously grammar was important, but did one presentation the whole year, and then at the end of that I realized like that has not set me up for what I'm about to be doing. Like what I'm about to be doing is all people, all talking to people, listening, you know, writing business plans or you know, doing all these different things. I had no skills. So then when I did my master's in engineering leadership management, that was all soft skills. It was all, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So we did presentations every week. And I also, so my tutor pulled me aside at the beginning and was like, right, what do you want to get better at? And I was like, talking, presenting. I've never done it. And when I've done it, I'd had anxiety attacks, like literally panic attacks from the thought of like speaking in front of
And now you're on a
crowds.
podcast, look at you.
Now I'm on a podcast and I've done various different talks and I've put myself forward for the Humans, one in Cardiff, whenever there's a space free, because I've got... I did a talk at another networking event, how building Bowla has built my courage and my confidence. So I wanted to do that at the Humans.
Yeah, because do you feel the Bowla's allowed you to sort of like tune into where you were when you were younger and almost like gloss over what went on before that?
Yeah,
and now you're sort of like got back to who you really are. Definitely,
yeah. It's definitely like unleash something else, like a new creative outlet for sure. And I've used it. I've used the business and to develop myself. Like I've been obsessed with self-development. I've read so many self-development books. I was on the NatWest Accelerator program and I obviously like met all the people there, went to all the workshops.
Yeah.
On the side now I'm also facilitating business boot camps on a freelance basis with Welsh Ice.
Nice.
And I'm also a role model for Big Ideas Wales, which is like encouraging people below 25 to like school leavers, so college, universities. I think you do some below, like some in high school as well, where you like go around schools, colleges, universities and inspire younger people into entrepreneurship and stuff, which is important to me because whenever people would come in from industry and do talks, like I would really like that. I wouldn't show that I liked it, but I would really like it when you'd have someone a bit different come in and they'd spend an hour with you. Like I did like that. So yeah, that's definitely.
So, you know, your journey's been an interesting one and you must have learned a whole load of things. So what are your like top 3 tips that you could give the audience in terms of, you know, essentially living a life as an entrepreneur, because there are loads of lessons, loads of books or whatever, but you've obviously been through a lot already at a young age. So go on, what 3 tips could you give the audience?
I think like if you want to do something, you've got to do it. I said in like when I closed down the store, like one of the things was like you've got to make change for change to happen sometimes. Like obviously change naturally happens and you need to embrace that change, but sometimes you'll be stuck in the same situation. Like after leaving school and uni, I realized that you literally have free will. Like you literally have to make things happen if you want them to happen.
Yeah.
And there's no like, school, you go through school, you're in year 1, year 2, year 3, and you go all the way up. And then it's just like, okay, like I could have kept running that stall, which I didn't hugely enjoy, like the actual day-to-day running that stall, and it was kind of making me feel a bit stuck. I could have stayed in that another 2 or 3 years just because I'd invested whatever money in it. And like, but equally already, even 4 weeks later, I've had emails come through for opportunities that are even bigger, and like there's more that's going to happen.
I think that's it. I think obviously making change is one thing. I think that having multiple conversations continually, I think sometimes change doesn't happen because you're not having enough conversations.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think for me, that's something I learned very early on in terms of networking, is that if you're not talking to strangers, then you'll do things your own way all the time.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily right.
100%. And this, with me realizing I wasn't happy in the situation I was currently in, when I did the NatWest Accelerator program, we did group mentoring, and we'd like basically talk through a problem. I remember probably in December, so we'd opened in September, the second stall. December, I think I did like a thing, and the other people in the group mentoring, there's 4 of us, they were asking questions, and I was actually for once honest about how I was feeling. And I realized then how much I've been putting up with that I shouldn't have been putting up with, and like the situation I was in like was not working at all. Yeah. But I wouldn't have known that if I weren't honest with people who were they're older than me, they have more experience than me, they care. We all care about each other. So it was like and then from there I started making change. And I have business mentors, I've had various different people, I have role models and family members. Like I talk to everyone about as much as I can without just only talking about myself.
Yeah, so no, but that's good. So the first one's like change. What would be the second one?
I feel like I should have written these down before. You've got to make change. What else have I learned? To trust your own gut. First and foremost, like I think I've said yes to things I don't want to say yes to, but right. I think you have to do that at the beginning. I do think you have to earn your stripes a little bit. But like trust your gut instinct. If you know something's wrong for you, don't ignore it. Like don't ignore that and just go through. But also like listen to, like other people are so important. Like listen to other people with experience, things like that. But equally they can only see what they can see. So if you've got like a vision that you want to pursue, and someone else says, oh, you can't do that, they only know what they know. Like they only know, and you only know what you know, but they only know what they know. They don't know more. They might know a bit more than you, but they don't know.
Yep. Don't know the full story.
They don't know.
Or the context even.
No. Yep. They can't possibly have the full 360 picture that you actually have and will continue to have all the way through. Whereas they go, oh, you can't do that. And like, yeah, I've had loads of people go, no, you can't do that. And it's like.
But it's a funny one because you'll find that people will say you can't do that, but their reference point is like completely different from you. So they could be in a corporate job where they're getting paid every single month on time, and you're not taking, and then they've never taken the risk in their life telling you can't do it.
Yeah.
But their reference point is not the same place. So you're a risk taker. You've already made some big career pivots at the beginning, but likewise, having people around you helps you educate yourself on which risk shall I take and which risk shall I wait for a bit later on. So that's really positive. So change and trust in your gut and your own intuition, which is a good one. I think we talked about maybe the what the third one could be, but I think just in the conversation, I think it's definitely about conversations. Just having conversations with as many people as possible and being open to learn. I think definitely, for me, it's a third one. I think where you've got so far is you're just continually learning.
100%.
If you look at it,
that's what I enjoy about life. Like that's one of the only things I enjoy is like doing something a bit new. Like I love like pushing myself a little bit out of my comfort zone. Obviously there's a limit to that, obviously, like putting yourself in a nervous state all the time, but which is I think I'm a bit addicted to that though. I think I'm a bit addicted to like, you know, going to a new thing. Even driving here, I've never been here before, but I like there's something in my stomach that's like giving me butterflies. Like I'm somewhere I've never been here before. Like I love that.
Yeah, I think there's that element of though that you're on a quest and you're on a journey and you're on an adventure, and each day is different.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the entrepreneurial journey, that it isn't the same every day. And some people don't like that. They hate that. They want the same thing. They want a routine. But I think for yourself, it's more, I'm on an adventure. I want to get to know a whole load of people and learn along the way. But the reality is, for us, it's a lifestyle that you choose to do. So how would people get in touch with you? One, from an entrepreneurial perspective, because you've been on a heck of a journey. Yeah. And two, buy your product. How would they do that? So
they can get in touch with me. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Bowla's in a pivotal state at the moment, so we're not available to buy anywhere at the moment. I've just ceased trading for now because there's work I want to do on the moulds that we launched with the minimum viable product.
Yeah.
So there's research, there's data that's there that needs analysing to improve. So we'll probably be relaunching. I mean, I've got people asking, so it's like, so I'm going to try and figure that out.
Build a wait list.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's exactly it. I'm gonna have to. I really want to like convert the website to like a wait list type thing, and I'm gonna try and do all that as soon as possible. I am in need of an income, so I'm sort of interviewing for jobs and stuff. But I want a job that doesn't take every single ounce of my capacity. Like that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But I need an income, so I'm gonna have a little job for now, and that'll be a different experience for me again. Like I've never actually had a job, so I guess let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to, and then earn some money and then hopefully put some money into it as well myself, which would be nice. So yeah, just follow on social media, Bowla's Instagram, TikTok, my TikTok. I had a TikTok for helping people improve their courage, like how to, you know, like things that I do every day, how I'm rejected all the time, like how when you're running a business, you're constantly facing rejection. Yeah, so it's constant rejection therapy, and then how that like builds your courage. So I've got a TikTok. Nice. But LinkedIn is the main one that I use. I think, I try and post frequently.
No, awesome. I mean, for me, it's that resilience, it's that perseverance and whatever. I think the fact that you've been able to take some time back, you've run the experiment, and now you've got to go and analyze the data to go again is great. I think, you know, your journey is an unusual one. It's almost like you're taking your dad's family business idea and you've run with it, which is incredible. And you know, there are people sat there going, shall I, shan't I? And it's not easy, right? It's not always easy, but the point is that every day you're moving towards something more positive and building a brand where everyone's got one of those bowls in their bread bin. That's the plan, right?
That's the goal.
So thank you so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the stage at Humans as well in Cardiff in a few months' time. But thanks so much for taking the time visiting us in the countryside.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it and be successful in life on their terms.